Yeah.
Kevin's a good guy. Yeah, it's great.
Ridiculous. I can't believe it.
He's got a vested interest, so he's happy.
Yeah, that was. He just seems helpful.
That's so. This is like
He's still in
a great
Norway.
honor.
Oh, he just moved?
His house was been sold.
So,
It's
let me ask you something. Was it near Golden Hills? Like right by the I was driving through the
on
one.
Hot Town Fells.
Oh, it's on the phone.
No.
Oh, I didn't. Actually, I just added it into my notes.
Okay.
Good evening and welcome. Thank you for being here tonight for our e-bike safety forum. This meeting is being recorded and we appreciate SCTV for their assistance. This is both on YouTube and live on TV right now. I would ask if you could please all silence your cell phones. My name is Deborah Panetta. I'm the chairman of the Saugus Board of Selectmen, and I'm joined tonight by my fellow board members. We have with us Vice Chairman Anthony Cogliano, Selectman Jeff Ciccolini, Selectman Frank Federico, and Selectman Michael Serino. We are also joined tonight by our town manager, Mr. Scott Crabtree. Last fall, our board heard many concerns about e-bike safety. In fact, during candidates night, residents asked us what steps we plan to take to alleviate this concern. Immediately after the election, the board agreed that an educational forum, not just for students, but for all residents, would be an important step for our community. We reached out to our state delegation, and we're grateful to have them with us this evening. We have Senator Brenton Crichton, who will be giving a presentation. We have Representative Donald Wong and Representative Jessica Giannino. They too share our concern about e-bike and scooter safety. We also contacted the school department and the school committee, and we have the school committee members here tonight. We have Chairman Tommy Wittridge, who will be giving our closing this evening, Vice Chair Stephanie Mastrocola, Brian Doherty, Shane McCarthy, and Dennis Gould. And tonight we also have with us, sitting in the back, Superintendent Hashem. Thank you so much for coming. We also appreciate all the town meeting members that are here to join us and members of the different committees and commissions in our town. As you can see, your elected officials are united in their commitment to keep our community safe. To be clear, tonight's event is educational. This is not a forum to ban e-bikes. Our goal is to prevent tragedies, like the heartbreaking incident that happened in Stoneham, where a 13-year-old boy lost his life with an electric scooter, dirt bike, that collided into a car at 4:30 in the afternoon last November. We're fortunate to have expert speakers with us tonight who will help us better understand the risks, responsibilities, and best practices surrounding e-bike use. We have agendas up front on both sides of the tables if you need one. To quickly review the agenda, we have Deborah Crichton. She is the outreach coordinator serving Saugus and the North Shore. We have Judy Crocker, statewide coordinator. They will be presenting first, followed by our police chief, Riccadelli, who will be talking about enforcement in Saugus and police action. We have Kara Oberg from the Ride Cafe in Melrose talking about e-bike definitions in Massachusetts. You can see she brought some bikes with her this evening. Thank you for that. We have Senator Brendan Crichton, who will be talking about what's being done at the state level. And we also, as I mentioned, have both Representatives Wong and Giannino here for any follow-up questions or comments. We have Carla Scazzarella, who is the principal of both the middle and the high school, to talk about what's being done at the schools. And closing, we have Tommy Wittridge, our chairman of our Saugus School Committee. At the end of our meeting tonight, we're going to open up the floor for questions and answers. As you can see, we have a microphone set up right in the center aisle. And I also will have this handheld microphone if anyone prefers to ask a question from their seat. Just raise your hand, and I'll be more than happy to come over with the microphone so you could ask your question. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Deborah Creathen and Judy Crocker.
Okay, good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. We are the Massachusetts Safe Routes to School program. General question, how many people here are familiar with Safe Routes to School? Oh, we're going to change that tonight, we hope. So, Safe Routes to School is actually a federally funded program. It's in all 50 states in the United States. It's an international program. It started in Denmark. It's all about student safety and getting to and from school. It is a collaborative program, a community-centric program. It is K through 12, and it really fosters a sense of community as much as focusing on just general safety and bridging that gap between health and transportation. So tonight we have a little bit of time to talk about e-bikes, and so that's what we're going to do. So micromobility is the new wave of transit. And electric vehicles, particularly electric bicycles, are the polarizing mode leading the movement. So serving as a very important age-friendly and low-cost transportation option, updating one's life skills on riding a bike that weighs up to 80 pounds, that does not require a driver's license or insurance, and that travels alongside road traffic commands a new appreciation of rules of the road and of managing speed. There is no school district or police department immune from the non-licensed student use of e-bikes. That's part of the education that we hope to go through. So, as I like to say to the kiddos when we do education, I have this much to say and only this much time. So I'm going to talk pretty fast because I only have this much time. So we invite all on March 4th. We have at noon, we have an online webinar talking all about e-bikes. This is an abbreviated part of the slideshow that you're going to see tonight, but we're going to go much more in depth for that event. So student biking, it's all about getting to and from work, at school, and play. It's about that sense of independence. It's not just the 250th that we're all celebrating. It's truly having a child feel comfortable enough to get from point A to point B by themselves, and the resiliency and the physical activity that you get, and all those happy endorphins. So for bicycles, there are two different forms. We have pedal bikes, and truly there is a style to fit everyone's need. And then we have electric bikes. These are much more age-friendly, active transportation, and it really does help to improve access to being outdoors and healthy living. The Consumer Report Agency last year noted they rated 74 different types of e-bikes. And they said no two are the same, and no two are serviced the same. So Kara Oberg from the Ride Cafe will get more into that. So e-bikes do not need a license. They do not need insurance. There's no minimum age to use one. And they're never, ever, ever, ever to be used on a sidewalk. Just a few quick statistics that we'd like to impress the kiddos about. From the Department of Transportation, in the first half of 2025, we actually saw an increase in accidents happening between those on e-bikes and bicycles with pedestrians. So that's part of the education we're trying to impress to the students. And e-scooter emergency department visits jumped 22% between 21 and 22. So there's a lot going on here, and we just want to try to make everybody safe. So today's student commuters, this is what it looks like. These photos were all taken from neighboring towns in October and November to Saugus. There's a lot of good stuff going on here. We have a lot of bikes. We have too many bikes and not enough racks. But we also have many different types of bicycles and e-bicycles. I would like to point out that the photo on the far right, which Caro is going to speak of more directly in a few minutes, that's from a middle school. So, all right. This is the only slide I'm truly going to read. I am not aware that any community has a blueprint for what safe, responsible e-bike use for minors looks like. And this is from a local bike store manager. So there's just a lot going on in the community about e-bikes. So for Safe Routes to School, everything we do around education and a lot of what we do around planning is really looking at the child and where they are in their development. They are not an adult. They have to be treated differently. They're different risk-taking. A kindergartner versus a 7th grader versus a high schooler, very different. Whoops. Reaction time is very different. Their gross motor skills are different. Their fine motor skills are different. Fun fact, if you look at most 2nd graders on a 2nd grade style bike where you have the brakes are on both sides of the handlebars, most of those kiddos don't have the hand width to grip those. So we're teaching these kiddos how to almost ride a bike just using one brake, because that's all they can reach safely. That's just one example of adapting to what our students need. So for Safe Routes to School, in terms of education, everything we do is accredited and approved by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, meaning we meet a whole lot of standards, local and national. In terms of, we do pedestrian safety, which is sidewalk, crosswalk, and parking lot safety, and we also do bike education. For bike education, we do 2 different forms. We have an assembly. My colleague Deborah has been in many of the Saugus schools for pedestrian and bike education, and just making the rounds through all the schools, truly elementary through high school. And then the middle and the left photo are just if we have on-bike education. It could be learn to ride, it could be rules of the road. We do have a bike fleet, thank you, Mr. Sutton, and this is being worked into if you don't have bikes for your children or they don't have bikes to bring themselves. Another way we can try to beef up where the students are walking and biking is to create student route maps. So we have different ways of doing this, but this helps the community understand where most of the students are going to be riding and walking to and from school based on where they live, but also it helps DPW, it helps planning to figure out, where should the snowbanks go? What type of upkeep needs to be happening on those roadways. We also are very proud to be involved with traffic gardens. Traffic gardens, if you would, it's like a mini model of a simplified roadway. And teaching really age-friendly people how to ride bikes on the roadway and also how to be a pedestrian, a safe pedestrian on the roadway. So we have our own traffic garden guide. We have English and Spanish tip sheets available. And on the right-hand side, we actually did a pop-up in Fall River, and this is part of our team working on that. So all good. So a few factors now about how do you stop a bike? And this is a big factor we try to drive home with the students. So there are many different factors that impact stopping a bike. The first one is really how fast you're going. And so in today's presentation, the blue icon in the upper photo, that's going to be a pedal bike, and the red down below is going to be an electric bike. So most pedal bikes can go about 15 miles an hour, and this is approximately what you're going to see. You can see almost the entire landscape. But when you double that speed, which an e-bike can do, you see less because you're going so fast. It's called tunnel vision. We also try to impress on the students that the faster you travel, there's less time to react. They all understand playing red light, green light. They all know you can't stop on a dime. So just a different way of thinking about it. And also, if you double your speed, you're actually quadrupling your stopping distance. So again, if a bike goes on a good ride, 15 miles an hour, and if an e-bike goes between 20 and 28 miles an hour, that's the distance you're going to go. So you don't, staying out of the way of that same puppy. Also, if you double your weight, you're going to double your stopping distance. We like to explain to the students, if you have a small dog, a medium-sized dog, or a large dog, things they can relate to. That's going to be the weight difference between the 3 classes of bikes, of most bikes. So, and just how a little bit of mass changes the equation. The students also understand that if you're going fast and you take a corner, you need space. That's the photo on the left. What we're trying to impress on them is that if you have something that's going even a little faster, as you can see online, there's many tutorials. The upper photo is if you are in first gear on a motorcycle, which would be similar to a pedal bike. The bottom picture is if you're going in second or third gear, which is a little bit faster. So, a lot of instruction out there on how to be safe. The conditions of the environment always play a factor. It takes a lot longer to stop if the conditions are wet, and we have so many different variables here in New England. The reaction time, again, for a child, is different from an adult. But the child will be thinking about it, and then they physically start braking. And that, put those together, and that's how long they take to stop. So, and again, age by age. You hear the old story that, my child missed the ball in the outfield playing t-ball or something because they were looking at the clouds and picking the flowers and looking at the butterflies. Same type of thing can happen even on a bike. So, moving forward, we're looking at how we can evolving safety solutions for everyone. Communication. There's so many different ways that we can communicate. So for Safe Routes to School, the photo in the center is actually a stencil that we have. One of the unintended consequences of putting our bike racks near the front door of our schools, which is where we want them so they're fully accessible, is we have to remind the students that they have to walk their bikes when they're on the sidewalk because you have that influx of pedestrians with wheels. So that stencil is available for anyone. So we find that particularly a lot of police departments talk a lot about how's the best way to communicate with all of this. So it's all about safety first, riding e-bikes. It's all about learning to ride an e-bike. It's not the same as a conventional pedal bike. So you almost have to relearn how to ride the bike. It's helmets, helmets, helmets. Almost forgot my props. So this is coming up. We all know, okay? It doesn't matter what type of helmet you have. This is not a bike helmet, obviously. But when you wear a bike helmet, it's a lot like wearing a baseball hat, okay? You want to not move your head and look up, and you only see the lid, okay? We tried to impress on the students. You don't want to wear it like this. You don't want to wear it like this. You don't want to wear it like this. And you never, ever, ever wear it on the handlebars or off the backpack of your bike, all right? So again, your basic helmet. All helmets are made the same. Hard plastic on the outside, styrofoam in the inside. There's a lot of little white stickers inside. Did everybody know that your helmet has a birthday? This styrofoam actually degrades over time. So, it can expire like a gallon of milk. So you want to make sure that you're in compliance with your helmet. It just won't protect you as well as it once could. The styrofoam actually does not also like extreme temperatures. So don't keep it in a car where it gets very hot or cold, or an unheated garage. My kiddos keep theirs under their bed. You always know where it is. So again, you put the helmet on. When you look at the straps on the side, it should form the letter V. Everyone can see this. You don't want it hanging down here on your chin, and then you just clasp it. When you move your head, it shouldn't wiggle and jiggle like a bowl full of Jell-O, but it also shouldn't feel like a boa constrictor. So it just wants to be comfortable. That's all you want it to be. So, all about helmets. It's also the law in Massachusetts, if you're 16 or under, you need to wear a helmet. Any wheels on your feet, a board, rollerblades, scooter, bike, doesn't matter. So, next you want to follow the rules of the road. We do a lot of this, particularly with the older students. It's understanding how to signal. It's all about communication. It's understanding pack riding, distracted riding. It's understanding how to take care of your bike, but it's also understanding what each sign on the roadway means, because everything with wheels follows the same rules of the road. So you have the bikes, the buses, the cars, and the trucks. They're all the same. So you also want to purchase responsibly. There's a lot of things out there, but you're going to find that if you buy something online, a local bike shop tends not to service it. All right? And then lastly, again, never, ever, 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 ever do you ride anything with a motor on a sidewalk. There are allowances for that if you have a pedal bike, particularly if you're a learn-to-ride student, and there's no pedestrians around, but that's why we call it a sidewalk. We don't call it a side bike. Try to impress that on the students. But if we share the sidewalk, that's fine. But again, wheels go faster than feet, but if you put a motor on it, all bets are off. It has to be on the street. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Judy. Our next presenter this evening is Police Chief Riccadelli, and he's going to talk about police actions in Saugus. Police Chief.
Excuse me. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here and taking the time out of your busy schedules to focus on this increasingly important public safety issue, which is electric bike or e-bike safety. E-bikes up until a couple of years ago were a novelty, but I think it's pretty safe to say that they're here to stay. They're common sights already on the streets, sidewalks, bike paths, etc. And I think once the warm weather's here, they're going to be even an increase. A lot of these kids probably got these bikes for Christmas over the Christmas holidays, so we're prepared to see more and more as the weather gets warmer and warmer. They do offer a lot of benefits: affordable transportation, environmental advantages, increased mobility for residents of all ages. But with these benefits comes added responsibility, and it's our shared responsibility to ensure that e-bikes are used safely, legally, respectfully in the town of Saugus. Tonight I want to speak about how the Saugus Police Department plans on approaching e-bike safety through education, enforcement, communication, and a partnership with the community. First and foremost, education is our primary tool, and I think that starts tonight. That's why we're all here, to learn a little bit. I dug into this pretty deep over the last couple of weeks, and I learned quite a few things. Many e-bikes, or e-bike riders, especially young riders and parents, are not fully aware that e-bikes are regulated differently than traditional bicycles. Speed capabilities, age restrictions, helmet requirements, and where these bikes may be legally operated all matter. A common theme that I kept hearing about was the reprogramming of these e-bikes to go faster than the factory settings. This is commonly referred to as flashing or jailbreaking, and it's fairly easy to do. Most e-bikes come from the factory programmed to go 20 miles per hour or less. This is so that they're in compliance with state and federal regulations. Children under 16 are not allowed to ride e-bikes that have the capability of going over 20 miles an hour. We encourage parents to check their kids' e-bikes every so often to make sure that they haven't been reprogrammed to go over 20 miles an hour. Like I said, it's not like you even have to take some of these to a bike shop. A lot of these kids can do it with their phones and a USB cord. I know that the Special Commission on Micromobility, which was just mentioned, put together some recommendations to the state legislature on some proposed law changes. I know Senator Crichton's here this evening, and maybe he can speak a little bit more on that. But I think what we're seeing is that the technology is progressing so rapidly that the laws are falling behind, and it's taking us a year or two to catch up. So again, I know that they're coming in again. Senator Crichton could speak on that, but what it is a lack of awareness can lead to different dangerous situations from riders, pedestrians, and also motorists. So the Saugus Police Department is committed to working with local schools, youth organizations, parent groups to explain e-bike laws and safe riding practices, providing clear guidance on helmet use, roadway rules, pedestrian right-of-way, helping parents understand their role in supervising young riders, and choosing age-appropriate equipment. That being said, education must be supported by enforcement at some point. If we see unsafe or illegal behavior, such as excessive speed, reckless operation, riding where motorized vehicles are prohibited, or repeated violations, we're prepared to take action. Our goal is not to punish these kids just for the sake of punishment, but our goal is prevention, preventing a tragedy, preventing an injury. I think, like, as she said before me, you know, I think the reason we're all here is probably we're all worried that, you know, something that happened in Stoneham just a few months ago could happen here. Communication, I think, on this subject matters a lot. And today, we need to meet people where they are, and where everybody is online. So we're prepared to do a social media blast that would educate the community on bike laws and regulations. Social media allows us to reach quickly and directly. We'll continue to use our platforms to share clear, accurate information about e-bike laws and safety tips, highlight seasonal reminders as riding increases into the warmer months, address some common misconceptions, and promote positive examples of safe and responsible riding. E-bike safety is not something that we as a police department should do alone, and I think that's why we have so many different groups here tonight. I think that's pretty much understood before we all walked in the door, but we're actively seeking state and federal grant opportunities that support traffic safety initiatives. These grants we've gotten in the past and have helped us in the past do things like buy educational materials, hand them out at community presentations, target enforcement details focused on high-risk areas such as the rail trail, Cliftondale Square, Saugus Center, and also to buy safety equipment and visibility tools for riders. I know in our annual bike rodeo, part of the grant was to purchase a number of helmets to a lot of the families in towns who can't afford them. By leveraging these grants and partnerships, we can expand our reach without placing unnecessary burden on local taxpayers. I know a few people have reached out to me about public service announcements, PSAs. I think there's a couple, there's some real good ones out of Andover, so we're prepared to make some of our own. Again, clear, concise messaging, whether through local cable access, town websites, school newsletters, community events like this, and bike rodeos. This helps reinforce safe behavior. Short, direct reminders about helmet use, speed, sharing the road can make a difference, especially to young riders who really, you know, are out there for the first time maybe on the road and don't know all the rules of the road. So we're committed to working with town officials, schools, and community to ensure that these messages are visible, understandable, and repeated often enough to stick. E-bike safety isn't about saying no to this new technology. It's about saying yes to the responsibility, awareness, and respect for one another. Saugus Police Department will continue to lead with education, support efforts with fair enforcement, communicate openly, and seek out resources to benefit the entire community. But lasting safety comes from a partnership from parents, riders, educators, residents, and the police department. We all have to work together if we want to make a difference. So thank you for your attention and your cooperation, your anticipated cooperation on this matter.
Thank you, Chief. It's important to mention that I worked with the Chief of Police along with Steve Winslow, who's in the audience from Bike to the Seas, also a counselor in Malden, when town meeting voted for the rail trail bylaw that specifically talks about bikes, e-bikes, and so forth. So it really is a collaborative effort when we put these bylaws and regulations in place. Our next speaker this evening is Carol Oberg. She's from the Ride Cafe in Melrose. And Carol looks like she brought some bikes in with her.
You want Brian to ride it over? Brian, ride it over.
All right, can everyone hear me okay? Okay, this is a great turnout, and thank you for organizing. I am here to talk about a parent's guide to safe and legal e-bikes for teens. Raise your hand if you've ridden a bicycle in the last 6 months. For reference, 6 months ago was August. I know it feels like winter's been 6 months long. Raise your hand if you've ridden an e-bike in the last 6 months. Raise your hand if you know with 100% certainty that you rode an e-bike and not an e-moto. Okay. Tonight, we got 2. Tonight, you will walk away knowing the difference between an e-bike and an e-moto. I'm Kara Oberg. I'm a mom of 2. I own the Ride Cafe on Main Street in Melrose. I'm a Kids Learn to Ride instructor. I'm a transportation planner, and I'm a Mass DOT Micromobility Commissioner. Why did I open the Ride Cafe? Raise your hand if you heard of the Ride Cafe before tonight. So the Ride Cafe, as I mentioned, is on Main Street in Melrose. We are a bike and family travel shop. We offer bike sales, service, and rentals alongside refreshing cold brew. I opened the Ride Cafe to enhance the joy and convenience of your trips and to foster a vibrant bike community. I opened the Ride Cafe to help people have access to e-bikes through rentals, sales, and service. I opened the Ride Cafe to help make parents' lives easier. E-bikes are game changers, and I opened the Ride Cafe so I can help more people get on bikes, specifically e-bikes. Okay, now with that background, the question, e-bikes versus e-motos. I saw 2 people in the room know with 100% certainty that they rode e-bikes and not e-motos. So the Consumer Product Safety Commission, or the CPSC, defines an e-bike as having these components. First, 2 or 3 wheels, a motor under 750 watts, fully operational pedals, 20 miles an hour max. So the chief kind of mentioned and touched on this, and so did Judy. E-bikes are not vehicles. They are largely regulated the same as classic bikes. So this definition is a national consumer product definition. As we move down from there, certain states have different classifications. Class 1, in parentheses, is what we just talked about. 2 or 3 wheels, under 750 watts, fully operational pedals, 20 miles an hour, without a throttle. Now, Deborah, would it be okay if I have a mic while I'm talking over there? I'm going to kind of walk through the bike.
Pick that mic right up. Pick it right up.
Technology. Okay, so Class 2. This is a Class 2 e-bike. Same exact thing. Stops at 20 miles an hour. It has a throttle. This is a throttle. Left side, hear that? That's a throttle. Class 3, same exact thing, except there's no throttle, and the bike goes to 28 miles an hour. So those are the 3 classifications of e-bikes. So e-bike versus e-moto, what's the difference? So summarizing what I just said in that chart. So moving from the left to the right, Class 1, only pedal assist, 20 miles an hour. Class 2, pedal assist and throttle, what I just clicked on the e-bike. Class 3, no throttle, goes to 28 miles an hour. If a vehicle, anything that looks like a bike, but if it goes over 28 miles an hour, it is not an e-bike, it is an electric motorcycle. Or a dirt bike, which is essentially the same exact thing, but one is meant for the dirt and one is meant for pavement. I want to say on this slide. So currently, the Special Commission on Micromobility has been mentioned a couple of times. Current state law in Massachusetts, Class 1 and 2, current law. Pending Massachusetts legislative approval, end of February, is to add a Class 3 requirement and also pair that with 16 years of age as the minimum. So I really want to bring home this point. If it goes over 28 miles an hour, it is not an e-bike, even if it has pedals. A lot of times, manufacturers are making out-of-class electric vehicles. They're adding pedals. The pedals move, but they don't actually propel the bike forward. If it goes over 28 miles an hour, even if you see it has pedals, it's not an e-bike. We're talking about 2 different things. So now that we've all established that, and now all of you know the difference between an e-bike and an e-moto, I want to talk about bike components. So, bicycle components. I love e-bikes for a lot of reasons, one of which is it is made for transportation. We've got a front light and we've got a back light. It's state law to have your front and rear light on 30 minutes prior, dusk, and dawn. When you are riding an e-bike, as long as your battery is charged, you have a front and rear light. Those of you who bike and may know and commiserate with the fact that you go out, it's dark, and your light, you don't have it, it's uncharged, it's not ideal. So it's a huge safety feature of e-bikes. What I recommend is integrated brake lights. Oh, this one doesn't have it. Integrated brake lights, moving over here. So this is not a requirement for all e-bikes, but a safety feature that I recommend. Oh, it's because it's not on. And in addition to integrated brake lights are turd signals. Well, this is failing at the right exact time. All right. Why is it working? I'll come back to that. I don't know why it's not working. All of the bikes have integrated brake lights as well as turd signals. Let's try. I don't understand why it's not working. There we go. Integrated turn lights and brake lights. Okay, in addition, hydraulic disc brakes. This is a hydraulic disc brake. It is attached to the wheel. It moves along with the wheel. You brake, and it stops. Very similar to what we have in automotive brakes, and it provides greater stopping for higher speeds as well as higher weight for vehicles. Most e-bikes have these things, not all. These are not law or standard. UL certified battery for safety and peace of mind. Why does this matter? So UL Solutions independently tests electrical systems, and UL 2849 is standard for e-bikes. Ultimately, this means that the highest safety standards in design and manufacturing are what you are purchasing, and the main takeaway is it has a reduce of fire risk and battery failure. How's everyone doing? Information overload? I recommend that if you are interested in buying an electric bicycle, you walk into or you call your local bike shop. That's why we're here. We know this information. Judy mentioned this. Most bike shops will only service the bikes that they sell. Many shops don't service e-bikes. Buy a bike shop from a physical brick and mortar store. Buying bikes from a bike shop means you will never be turned away for service. We have to turn away a lot of bikes because we don't service e-motos. We get a ton. And we don't service bikes that aren't UL certified. So we have to turn away bikes, and it's awful. When you have a flat tire and it is your means of transportation, you want to make sure that you can get it serviced. And maintenance is a safety strategy, so you know this is a fully functioning bike before you get on it. So this is a screenshot of Googling bike shops around Saugus. The Ride Cafe, as I mentioned, is in Melrose. We do service bikes that we don't sell, but we don't service e-motos, and it has to have a UL certified battery. Looking south, JRA Cycles doesn't sell or will not touch e-bikes. Northwest, City Cycles in Stoneham only services bikes that they sell. Sin City is a motorcycle shop, so that's not a bike shop. And then North Shore Cycles, I am unsure their e-bike policy, but I think they only service bikes that they sell as well. So in sum, talking about a lot here, I have this checklist. I also have printouts that are on the front tables. If you're interested in an e-bike, you want to make sure you're actually considering an e-bike. It doesn't go over 28 miles an hour. If it's for teens, class 1 or 2, it's UL certified. It has hydraulic disc brakes. It has integrated brake lights and turd signals that I'll get working. You buy from a local shop. Now I want to talk about how to ride with confidence. If you or your teen don't have your driver's license yet, you may not, and maybe you haven't grown up biking in the road, a class could be helpful. Sign up and take our Parents and Teen e-bike course. This is to navigate e-bikes with confidence. Things that we'll go over. What we just talked about, but in much more depth. E-bike classifications, components, rules of the road. How to ride with confidence. Judy mentioned this. Stopping, turning, visibility. Storing your e-bike. Battery best practices. So there's battery best practices on not just charging your battery, but also how you safely store it. Advocacy tips, bike maintenance, and more. So my last point, and quite frankly my most important point that I want to talk about here today, is street design. If it's not clear, I think people riding bikes is a beautiful thing. Kids and teens riding their bikes is a beautiful thing. We need more of it. I have a handful of parents that have come in saying, I want my teen off their phone. I want them outside. Help me get them a safe e-bike. E-bikes provide solutions to many of societal problems. We can help make it safer by changing our streets. This is a picture of my daughter on the left, riding on the Northern Strand. Saugus has the wonderful fortune of having the Northern Strand going through your town. I let her bike freely because there is no chance that she can have conflict with the vehicle. Upper right-hand corner photo is a picture of a bike bus, and this infrastructure is a bike boulevard. And it is a bike bus, bike boulevard, 20 miles an hour max speed. So you can safely have cars and people on bikes, people driving on the same street if you lower the speeds. If it's too fast, you go to the opposite end of the spectrum, having a path. As safety is the topic, we must include street design in the discussion always. All right, my last slide. I have this e-bike checklist. After everything, right? We're starting with an e-bike. We're starting with a safe e-bike. You're buying from a local shop. You're learning the rules of the road. You're advocating for safer streets. The question I want to leave you here with is, how do we create safer, more inviting streets and paths to encourage more teens and ultimately people of all ages and abilities to get around safely by bike? Thank you.
Thank you, Kara. Next, we have Senator Brenton Crichton, who's going to be talking about what is being done at the state level.
Just give me 1 second to get this set up. Sorry, bear with me. All right. Here we go. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much to Chair Panetta, the Saugus Board of Selectmen, School Committee, Town Manager, Chief of Police, everyone that's in the room here tonight that took time to come out here. This has been such an important topic for us, at the local level certainly, and more recently at the state level. So I'm your state senator, honored to be here with Rep. Giannino and Rep. Wong, who work very closely on this issue and every issue together. I'm here giving the presentation because I am I'm the Senate chair of the Joint Committee on Transportation. And, I'm sorry, I'm way ahead here. All right, and a year or so ago, actually maybe 2 years at this point, when I joined the committee, we were looking at, as you heard from Kara earlier, classifications 1 and 2 for e-bikes. There was some legislation that had been out there. I was brand new to the issue, got to dive into it a bit. We were able to pass that classification, but there are so many other devices, what we call micromobility, as you've heard, that have not been classified or regulated here in the Commonwealth. And I worked really closely with a state senator that bikes and runs everywhere, Will Brownsberger. He had worked on this issue for a number of years and had filed legislation to create a commission. I then filed an amendment that was passed that created the Micromobility Commission that I had the pleasure of serving with Kara, a wide range of stakeholders and experts. I was the only non-expert at the table throughout the time there, and we learned a ton, and over the course of the last year came up with a pretty good template. So the problem, as you heard, we're seeing larger and faster devices hitting the market all the time. Anywhere you drive, really, in the Commonwealth, you'll see your traditional e-bikes, but I mean, some of the devices we're seeing now are out of science fiction movies. They're things you would not expect to see on a roadway, and certainly not on a sidewalk. And to this point, we've had a really patchwork and inconsistent state regulations. They haven't been universal. They haven't been adaptable. Obviously, we have inadequate transportation infrastructure to safely accommodate these vehicles. And as the chief alluded to, really difficult to enforce any of these laws. So we established a commission. The biggest part of any commission is the report at the end of our work. And as required by legislation, there were recommendations made to the legislature. This is very well-timed forum here today because the report was just released, and we are now in the process of reviewing the regulations in the legislature. And I think, the goal, again, we want to develop a universal and adaptable framework to make sure that we're keeping up with the ever-changing devices that we see. So hopefully soon we'll have legislation that's will be filed. It will likely come before the Joint Committee on Transportation. We will have public hearings. I encourage anybody that's interested to come in and testify. You can testify in person. You can testify remotely. You can write a letter of support or opposition. You can weigh in with your individual legislators. There are many ways you can get your input to us. The framework we're looking to do governs the vehicle requirements, operational requirements, and roadway access. So you think, as you heard from Kara earlier, there's a lot of complicated and a lot of different components to these bikes. Some of the recommendations that we have would focus in that space where you're looking to require certain things of the vehicles. Next to the operational requirements, so you think if you're using these vehicles, what vehicles do you need to have a helmet on? Age restrictions. Do you need to have insurance? Do you need to have the vehicle registered? We obviously want to find a balance between the public safety that we all care about, but also recognizing the important place that these vehicles have in our overall transportation infrastructure, whether just enjoying a ride out there, or if it's your means of transportation to school, as we heard earlier, to work. That last mile of your transit on the T could come from a micromobility device. So we want to make sure that there's a space for these devices in our communities, but a space that's safe. And then the last place kind of speaks to that is the point around roadway access. Where can these vehicles go? So again, you have the vehicle requirements, you have the operation requirements, and then kind of the physical space where they're able to operate. So I don't know how good folks can see this, but the tiers are really going to start at the slowest speed. So when you think of your traditional human-powered bikes, your 1 and 2 e-bikes, and these are all recommendations too, so this is what we're going to be debating, so nothing's finalized here. In mobility aid devices for those with mobility issues. So that's 0 to 20. You go down to tier 1, you're getting to the class 3 e-bikes, other powered micromobility devices, mopeds with 2 or 3 wheels. That's 20 to 30 miles per hour. Tier 2 gets much higher speeds, 30 to 40, limited use motorcycles, powered micromobility devices. And then tier 3 is, again, just a different speed metric, 40 miles per hour and over. So I think when we were looking at this, and there was, a lot of thought put into how we would tier and how we would classify these vehicles. The speed of the vehicle made the most sense. Obviously, the faster you go, the more dangerous these devices can potentially be if not being operated by the appropriate operator and well-trained. We kind of threw this together, and I hope I got this right, because there are many different kinds of bikes. So, Kara, I probably didn't.
No, it's okay.
Okay, yeah, this was.
Passed the class. What is wrong on the?
Yeah, this is a quiz. No, so this was a last-minute thing. I'm like, we need some visuals. My staff threw this up there, and I should have talked to you first, Kara. Ignore the visuals. But we are just trying to, again, encompass all these different types of vehicles that you see and making sure that they're in a proper classification. So now we come to the requirements. So the vehicle requirements, excuse me. I'm not going to dive into all of them, but you can kind of see, you see the boxes that are checking it off. As you get further down on the speed chart, you'll see that there are more and more requirements, whether it's the speedometer, stop and turn signals. The one in the center there is the lights, brakes, and horn. Different battery standards. So really trying to look at all the different components of these devices. And again, I mean, some of these are unicycles, some of these are scooter. Like, just picture anything at all that is moving that's not a car, basically. We're trying to create these classifications for those vehicles. Operational requirements, we talked a bit about the helmets. Obviously, again, as you go down further in speeds, you see more and more requirements being placed there. So we have the age, 16 plus. Do we need license or education? What type of license or education do you need there? Questions around insurance, the RMV registration. And then we also wanted to have a pilot program around kind of a micro ID or decal for some of these devices where your typical registration plate may not make the most sense. So, we're, again, open to more discussion on that. And then the right-of-way allowances, again, where can we use all of these vehicles? So I, again, appreciate the opportunity to speak here today. I would say the report's publicly available now. We are approaching this with a state sense of urgency. I hear from legislators every day. I hear from constituents every day. I hear from my wife 50 times a day about this issue. And we're really committed to moving something forward. We are running out of time in the legislative session, so I hope to have a hearing on this soon. Anytime between now and then, please give us your feedback if you have a chance to look at the legislation or the recommendations. And I just want to thank everyone for the opportunity to present here today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator Crichton. We have, no? Would you like to say a few words? No. All right, so I just asked Representative Wong and Representative Janino if they had anything to add, and they just said, nope, Brenda did a great job and covered everything, so thank you very much. Next on our agenda, we have Carla Scazzarella, who is the principal of the middle high school. She's also a town meeting member representing Precinct 10. And she's going to talk about what's being done at the middle high school.
Hi, everybody, and thank you again for inviting me to speak this evening. As Deb said, I'm the principal of the middle high school. I have lived in town my whole life, and I also happen to be a town meeting member. I wanted to take a few minutes to share my concerns about my students and the vehicles that they come to school on, and I know many of you see them around town also. Those are my people on the bikes that you are distracted by, I'm sure. As you've seen, the bikes are moving quickly, and we don't have just e-bikes, we have e-scooters that come to the building along with pedal bikes, regular scooters, skateboards, whatever has wheels, they're on. And if you're going at those speeds, you know, the falls are more serious. They're not always aware of potholes, curbs. They're kids. And so they're out on their bikes and they're on their way to school, and it's a great thing to be on their bikes on their way to school or their scooters, but they're not completely comfortable, I think, from my perspective, in the fact of how fast they actually can go. Many of the SMHS students who ride their electric vehicles do not have much experience reading traffic, judging roadways, judging things on the road in front of them, or handling speeds. They're used to pedaling and going, you know, less than 20 miles an hour, less than 15 miles an hour. Students coming to SMHS are riding on busy roads. Any of you who bring your children to the complex, pick them up at the complex, you know what those two streets looks like every single morning, every single afternoon. I have seen my students weave in between students walking on the sidewalks, in between the people driving or parked. There's no thinking happening here, honestly, and we care and we love them to death, everyone, but they're not paying attention when they're on their way. From my point of view, in the good weather, arrival in the morning and dismissal in the afternoon can be scary for us. The walkways around the building and the sides of the building are very crowded with kids. I've got grades 6 through 12 there. There's over 1,300 students, and they all empty out into just about the same area of the building, the front and the sides. This fall, we had more than one incident where students who were outside, standing or walking, had a collision with an e-scooter. Because their back was turned, they stepped sideways or they moved, and the other student didn't react fast enough, and there was a little crash. Thankfully, no one was seriously injured, but my students should not have to be dodging their classmates on the e-bikes and the e-scooters. Distractions and focus was mentioned earlier. Have you met my students? Distractions and focus is the name of their game. I see them with their headphones on, their earbuds in, or worse yet, they're looking at their phones while they're on these vehicles. It's really, I can't even imagine how they're assessing everything that's going on around them. And so obviously this means that they're less aware of their surroundings. They aren't necessarily hearing the traffic or the other vehicles in their vicinity, the other riders. I often see them crash into each other, which is, you know, something to behold, because that means they're really not paying attention. And their reaction to any obstacles or changes that happen in front of them, as you saw, they have sort of a tunnel vision, so they don't really react quickly. Whether it's a dog, another vehicle, somebody walking, someone jumps off the sidewalk, you know, teenagers do things. And they ride down the middle of the street on their bikes. They're going up and over the sidewalk. They're shooting out of Pierce Memorial onto Highland, no stopping, no looking. And they don't think through the consequences. Shocking? I know. But they don't think, and it's the name of the game for teenagers. My team and I started to be concerned about this issue last spring as more and more of our students began coming to the building on electric vehicles, as well as the regular bikes, scooters, skateboards. I joked with the superintendent that one of the things I loved about being here in Saugus was seeing the bike racks full of bikes and scooters. It makes a school of 1,300 plus students feel smaller, almost like those old neighborhood schools that a lot of us remember growing up around in town and riding our bikes to. So it gives that little extra feel of community. But because of what we are seeing, I decided to put something in our student handbook for this school year, and it's not a lot, but I did put something in about bike safety or coming to school safely on your vehicles. We specifically talked about bikes and scooters and e-bikes and e-scooters. And we tried to put reminders for them about wearing a helmet, following the rules of the road, not speeding on school property, and just in general getting them to understand that they have to be aware of the people that are walking, the many cars that are there, because not all of the drivers are, you know, I have a school full of new drivers also. They're not always focused on what's happening. As school started up, I was thinking I needed more bike racks. Mike and I have talked about that, and I've talked to the Safe School Routes people about it, because they have grants. Our bike racks are jam-packed. They're absolutely full, which is a good thing. So we do need more. But we were seeing more unsafe behavior. And as I mentioned, we had a couple of collisions. And so we've decided to try to be more proactive, and I'm really happy that the community is interested in this. I send home messages to parents, and particularly in the fall, many of my messages that were about other things included a reminder about what time school starts and bike safety, because we just see it so often that they're not slowing down. One of our rules is they have to walk the bike once they get on school property. They have to get off and walk. And that's a tough one to, if we're not all out in front of the school, that is not always something that I see. But we do try to push that. We are doing everything that we can think of to try and keep our students safe, but the reality of this is, once they cross Pierce and head down Highland or out onto Main, I lose my ability to hold them accountable. And so now they become the community of us, you know, trying to pay attention and see what's going on. You all know the old saying that it takes a village to raise a child. The saying emphasizing that an entire community, family, friends, teachers, neighbors, is needed to provide safe, nurturing environments necessary for children's healthy growth. It signifies that collective support and shared responsibility alleviate the burden on parents. And I'm really happy to see that our community is extremely concerned about this issue, and that working together as that village, we can perhaps teach our students to safely get themselves riding to school and to keep them safe. Thank you. Thanks for inviting.
Thank you, Carla. Our last presenter of the evening is Tommy Whitridge, who is our school committee chairman. He has some closing remarks. And right afterwards, we'll have our question and answer period. Thank you, Tommy.
All right, not gonna lie, it's not fun going last because everybody has said everything that you guys are gonna hear tonight. You know, e-bikes, yeah, they're fun, they're fast, environmentally friendly, but like everybody else has said, you know, the faster you go, the more consequences with the accidents, they're way more serious. You know, wear a helmet, no matter how short the ride. You know, I see these kids here, don't worry about messing up your hair. It's easy to mess up your hair than your brain. Trust me on that one. Just follow the rules of the road. That's all, as if you were driving a car. Most importantly, respect everyone you on the road, you share the road with, and you share the bike paths with. If cars, e-bikes, and pedestrians all look out for each other, everyone gets where they're going safely and without ending up in one of those social media gossip pages that Mr. Camuso, you know those well over there. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Town Manager Crabtree, of course, Chairwoman Deb Panetta, and the Board of Selectmen for putting this all together. And we got Deborah and Kara, and of course the Chief, and Senator Crichton down there, and Lieutenant Connors over here, of course, and everybody. I see a bunch of, Janine, Representative Janino and Representative Wong. I see a bunch of town meeting members. And all that tells me is that, actually, I'm sorry, before I even get to that, I want to point out my fellow school committee members over there and a couple in the back. Shannon actually, before she was even on the school committee, she contacted Safe Routes to School and she brought it to the school committee. So it just goes to show you don't need to be an elected official to get involved and want safer streets and want safer things for your kids. Everyone here clearly cares about keeping our community safe. That's why everybody showed up. That's why you're probably going to ask some questions. But none of it's going to matter if the messages don't get home. That's going to be the main problem, is getting the parents to educate their own kids. We can only do so much. I'm looking out here right now, and I don't see a lot of parents that should be here. I see a lot of officials. I see a lot of parents that, I see a couple over here that have their kids here with them. But the real people that need to hear it aren't here. So we can talk, teach, encourage all we want, but the real habits have to start at home. So with that, I'm going to end this for tonight, and I'm going to pass it off to Chairwoman Panetta for some questions and answers. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Tommy. First, I would like to thank the panel. I appreciated everything that you did, taking your time out to come to our community. It's very much appreciated. I also want to thank each and every one of you for coming out this evening. I know everybody is busy. It's very much appreciated, as well as my fellow board members, Representative Wong, Representative Janino, our Connors, thank you very much. We have our school committee, superintendent, school committee members. Thank you very much for coming out, town meeting members. This is a wonderful crowd, and I do appreciate everyone that is here. We have a microphone that is set up right there. I also have this microphone. If you raise your hand, I can bring the microphone to you if you don't want to stand up at the podium. So we have our first speaker this evening. If you could please just give your name and address and ask your question. If there's someone specific on the board that you would like to address it to.
Are comments also okay?
I'm sorry?
Are comments also okay?
Sure it is.
Okay. I'm Gerard Glover. I live at 23 Howard Street. I've lived in Saugus for 17 years. I want to thank everyone for being here, and Selectwoman Deb. I currently go to UMass Boston. I study environmental science. I'm planning on going into urban planning. I am presented at the National Youth Bike Summit, which was here in Boston. I am going to be presenting at the National Bike Summit. Just say I know what I am familiar with bike infrastructure. I mostly want to talk about the fact that I'm very happy that we're focusing on safe routes to school, but we really need to focus on, we have to be realistic about who we're asking to navigate our streets. We're asking about children and teenagers, their brains still developing. And the biggest issue is when we have kids on bikes and we're asking them to share the road with cars, we're forcing them to make split-second, high-stakes decisions that even adults struggle with. The really solution is that we can't have a safe route without actual routes. If we want kids to stop weaving, we need to give them a single obvious route to follow. We have education to tell them how to ride, but we don't have infrastructure to tell them where to ride. We don't have a single bike lane that is managed by the town. If we really want true safe routes to school, we can't have a plan just assemblies and lectures and flyers. We have to include engineering in this. We need clearly marked lanes and traffic calming measures like speed humps and raised crosswalks to physically slow down cars near our schools and our communities. We need to design the roads so that even if a kid makes a mistake, it doesn't result in a tragedy. I really want us to embrace that safe routes to school mission fully, and we need to use available state resources, not just to scold the kids, but also to build them routes and paths that are safe for them and to be able to follow the rules to get to school safely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, could we have your name and address? Oh, did you want to address that?
Could I comment?
Absolutely, you can comment.
Comment
Thank
on the
you.
comment. So thank you for your words. Also at the Youth Bike Summit, so Safe Routes to School did a walk audit. And that's part of what we're trying to impress. Education is one part of the pie. The other part is planning. So even one of the slides I had was the route mapping. And so part of that is we're walking the walk. So we try to make routes based on where the students live, but then we walk the walk to make sure what our suggestions are safe. And if there's any improvements we can see in those areas, we share those with DPW, planning, engineering, whoever's in the community that's welcome. Yeah. Yeah, but just in general, we totally agree with you because education needs to be paired with planning.
Yeah, planning is it's
Yes.
the missing keyword that we have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Hi.
Hi, I'm Janine Venuti. I'm from over in Melrose, but I love the Saugus, the bike path. Thank you for telling us how it really is with teenagers. The little boy that was killed over in Stoneham, he was 13 years old. His name was Parker. He'll never be 14. He was wearing a bike helmet. It didn't help. He was going too fast. He was a child and didn't understand consequences. So, to the police department here, I see the police out there maybe once or twice on the bike path during the year. I go to other states, they have volunteer trail marshals. Could we try that? But one of these kids over here, he was shocked when you said they can't be on the sidewalk with their motorized bike. He didn't know. He's too young to know the rules of the road. The other one smirked because they're on and off the sidewalk. They're on the bike path. They're weaving in and out of traffic. We all know that. So that's my question to you. But my other question is to the lawmakers. New Jersey just passed a law. Said doesn't matter what class it is. You must be 16, have a driver's license and a registration. Because they realize that from this distance or 30 feet, I can't tell if class 1, 2, or 3, I can't tell if it's been jail hacked or whatever hacked. They go too fast. They don't follow the laws. At least if they're 16 and have a license, they have to have a basic rule of the road. At one point in time, we didn't have an age requirement for driving your car. But now we quickly learned that children were not supposed to be behind them because they were getting hurt. And we realized that there's been an explosion in emergency visits for pedestrians and for young people on these things. They're great for adults. They should be used for adults. People need a little extra assistance, but they should not, just like a car or a gun or tobacco or alcohol, should not be in the hands of a child. So I want to know, are you going to meet where New Jersey is? Because there are other states. New Jersey just did it. Florida's now looking to do it. And says no matter what class, whether it be an e-bike, a moped, a one-wheel scooter, electric scooter, you need to have a driver's license and a registration to keep children out of these things. Great in the hands of adults.
Would anybody from the panel like to, Senator Crichton?
And children and pedestrians and analog bikes are fine on the sidewalk. They're legal. So there is a safe route to school if you don't have an electric vehicle.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate the feedback, certainly. So, the commission certainly, the Micromobility Commission certainly looked at what's going on in other states and other proposed legislation. We'll take a look at New Jersey. The requirements that we're proposing are under the recommendation, so nothing in bill form just yet. For class 3 e-bikes, so I mean for vehicles over 21 miles per hour,
Can you look at that vehicle and tell me which class it is by looking at it?
well, we're regulating. So there's also a micro ID. Well, I'll go with that in a second. So I guess to your point, our recommendations are in line with what you just said. So for regular bikes that are up to 15 miles per hour. Those have helmet requirements, certainly, but for the 16 plus, it's anything that's over 21 miles per hour. There's also an education requirement and license requirements as you get to faster vehicles. So I think what you're talking about in New Jersey, ours replicates, we just may be doing it in a slightly different way. Do you take exception to that?
Yeah, because they do every class, because I can't.
Nobody can hear you if you say, I'm sorry, could you go right back to the microphone again if you'd like to speak some more, Judy?
I said, they realized that you can't look at that vehicle and tell me what class it is from 30 feet away. So how can you say
Are you
a
concerned about the
15-year can be on, you can't say, looking at that, it's a class 2 or a class 3, so you can't say, should a 15-year-old be on that or a 16-year-old be on that?
Are you asking in terms of the enforcement ability of officers?
Right. And for anyone, with
Yes, I mean, there's certainly going to be,
parents even, because,
well, they would know that they were buying a class 3 e-bike, I would hope.
yeah.
So we're putting the regulations in place. Human behavior is something that's challenging to change. But what you're talking about, what New Jersey did, I guess the only difference is they require that for regular bicycles as well.
No,
So it would just be, the difference would be.
Not
class
for
one.
analog
So
bikes.
for class 1 and class 2, under 20 miles per hour.
right, and a class 1 can be tied, it can be jailbroke,
Yeah, that's, I mean, it would be an illegal act, but yes.
Yeah.
Anyways, we'll look at New Jersey. Thank you.
Just one clarifying important thing to note, Janine, is part of the Micromobility Commission recommendations is a micro ID decal. So it is hard to tell. I tried my best to help educate. It is still hard to tell the difference of a class 1, 2, or 3, right? If you, the throttle is really where you find that out. But to make it easier for enforcement, and enforcement is just one piece of the pie. Education, encouragement, enforcement, engineering, planning. There's a 10-part piece to make sure that these things are safe for everybody. But part of it is so that when there is a crash, that the officers know what they are actually putting down in the crash report. And right now, a lot of times, they're being classified e-motos as e-bikes, and then e-bikes are reaping the negative benefits because of it, because it is hard. So I just want to clarify that a micro ID is going to be part of the recommendations to make it much easier for people to know what classification.
I know somebody who just bought a sticker and put it over his thing on his bike so that it's a different, you wouldn't know what it is. He had a different class and he wanted to be able to go on the trail, so he just got a sticker off of wherever off the internet and just put it over it.
Thank you for your comments. Jim, can you give your name and address, please?
Hi, my name is Jim Tozer. I live at 12 Saugus Ave, Saugus. I ride an e-bike all year round. I can't drive. I'm disabled. I'm a senior. Carrie, I just want to mention, I do have a Class 3 rad bike, and it does have a throttle. So I just want to clarify that, because you said Class 3s don't have throttle, but the rads do. On my bike, it says 16 and older to ride these things. I see kids younger than that riding these things, and I think if they're gonna, if the state is going to implement these e-bikes, I think if you need a license, I took this out. In case I get stopped on the rail trail by a police, I have this. So it's my handicap placket. I don't have a license, and that's the only thing I carry with me. Other than that, to regulate these things is going to be pretty difficult because Saugus doesn't have enough police to actually do the rail trail. Because Steve, when I was president of the Bike to the Sea, I got this rail trail through Saugus. That was many years ago. Now, Steve was the founder, Steve Winslow here, was the founder of the Bike to the Sea, him and his wife. And it took a long time to get these rail trails through Everett, through Lynn. And now everybody uses it. The state took it as an eminent domain. It's a beautiful rail trail. I wish cars and motorcycles wouldn't be on there, but can't stop the cars. I mean, but that's another story and another story. But no, I think the e-bikes are good for people who are seniors or disabled that can't drive anymore, like me. And regulating them is going to be pretty tough. because they don't have numbers on them like class. They do have class 1, 2, and 3, but you're gonna have to really look at the bike. Hey, is that a class 1 or a 2 or 3? I mean, I don't think anybody's gonna really look at them and look to see where they're located. So, yeah, it's gonna be pretty hard to regulate these things. So that's all I have to say.
Would anyone like to comment on that from the panel?
I mean, I will say, I know it's been brought up twice, that it is quite difficult to tell the difference.
Is there a way that you can grab a microphone, please? Thank you.
You know, the difference between a moped and a motorcycle, I can tell, or I can tell after walking up on it for 10 seconds. But yeah, I mean, and a lot of times there is no difference, right? Just to look at it, there's no physical difference. It's just that, that's why we're asking, we think, the parents to get involved to make sure they can get on their kid's bike, okay, every once in a while, and get on that throttle and see how fast it goes. That's who's gonna be able to tell, and that's why we're asking for their assistance at home. That's where it starts. Again, out on the road, again, just looking at something, no, I don't. I don't know if that's capable of going 30 miles an hour, you know, because it looks exactly like the one that is only capable of going 20 miles an hour. Right. So it does, you know, Dr. Scazzarella mentioned it, it takes a village. It's gonna take not just the police department, not just the parents, but also, you know, people from the schools, youth and rec, everybody to kind of monitor these things. So that's I think our plan, just to have as many people involved in watching over these kids as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you,
I think
Chief.
it's also, sorry, Madam Chair. Just to add to it, right now, other than Class 1 and Class 2, there are no regulations at all. Right? So like we're dealing with the Wild West. So I think moving in a direction that may not, you know, these are recommendations. We're going to flush this out, have a public process, public hearing, and get the best possible template. Is it going to solve everything? No. They're going to be bad actors or uninformed actors, you know, anywhere. Any legislation we do, we can't solve for all. But having nothing on the books, I mean, I came home one day to my son riding, he's 10 years old, riding some type of electric device. I'm not sure what classification it was, but it was going fast. He didn't have a helmet on, and the in-laws thought, oh, it's just a little bike that they're using. I was furious, but they're good babysitters, so we didn't fire them. But it's just, my point being that I think if people are informed about what the best practices are, most folks will make the right decision. The bad actors, it's hard to legislate for, it's hard to create policies for. Obviously, we'll work with law enforcement to find the best approach.
Thank you, Senator. Hi. Name and address, please.
Yeah, Laura Flynn, 23 Howard Street. Thank you, Chairwoman Deb Panetta, for putting this night together, and thank you for everyone here. It does start at home, Chief, so I completely agree. What I wanted to ask, Dr. Scazzarella, you're talking about education, right? Are we incorporating in the middle school and the high school any of this bike safety and rules of the roads as part of phys ed?
Not part of phys ed, but I lost my place on my brief remarks a little because I'm old.
Yeah.
And I wanted to say that one of the things we just recently did was I had the Safe Routes for Schools in for all of the 6th through 10th graders in the building, separate assemblies where they brought bikes in. They talked about everything with the students. It was very well received, and I really hope that my students, very few bikes are at the school right now.
I know, yeah,
It's freezing. And I think they're getting dropped off. But I'm hoping in the spring these things stay in their head. I know they learned some information, like these young guys here tonight, about you're not supposed to be on the sidewalk with these.
Right.
And I'm hopeful that we'll see some changes in behavior once they're riding to school again. Because a lot of them, the helmet is right here.
Yeah.
Even on the scooters, it's right there.
I mean,
And
I would
they
love
need
to
them
see,
on.
I would love to see some of those bike gardens where you could actually, in their phys ed class, go out with the group and have them ride and demonstrate their knowledge of how to ride the e-bike. So I appreciate everything that you're doing. I really appreciate the legislation and that well-thought-out plan of the tier classes for the bikes.
Yeah.
And I know it's a community effort. So again, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Selectman Federico's been waiting to ask a question.
I just want to stop by saying thank you to everyone, including the Chairwoman Deborah Panetta for putting this event on. Obviously, it's very meaningful to our community. I do have a question that may be best answered through Senator Creighton. As far as timing through the state, what are you anticipating as far as a return on the current studies that are done in some type of legislation? And, you know, can we work in unison, and what recommendations would you have at the town level of implementations that we can currently put forward? And, you know, like I mentioned, is it something that can work in parallel, or does it have to wait until the legislation is formed at the state level?
Thank you. Very good question, Frank. I don't have a crystal ball. It's hard to say. I guess if my gut is that in the coming maybe a month or so, there will likely to be legislation. I think municipalities can still, you know, build off. This is kind of a framework, a basic framework, but there's certainly things locally that you could be looking at and we could be working with you on. And then once, I mean, the bill's filed, we have a hearing before the committee. I have a feeling that it's going to be a packed committee room. I think there's a lot of stakeholders in this across the state. So we're going to hear a ton of feedback, good, bad, and other. And then, you know, to your point, that we're trying to do this work now, even waiting for the bill, right? Like trying to bring in stakeholders, which we already did kind of through the commission process. The commission process definitely had sped things up. A year of effort and experts coming together. After the hearing, I hope, as chair, recommend a bill as quickly as we can. Then realistically, you're dealing with, the House has their budget, we have our budget, there's so many other competing pieces of legislation. I would say July 31st is a good marker. It's the end of our formal sessions. So anything you could be doing in the meantime to work with us on that. I think the framework that you have for the tiers is like the most likely to be kind of the core of the legislation. There were other recommendations that may or may not make it, but I think that tiered structure in those three areas probably will be in some form of legislation. You're welcome.
Thank you. Ian is the next speaker.
Good evening. In our town, we don't even have the bikes path, and we're here to talk about e-bikes and e-motors like Kara teach us today, right? We don't have like path for the bikes, and right now we talk about e-motors and motorcycles and e-bikes. And I believe that most of people that are here, they have more complaints than like for teaching our kids how to drive them and safety and helmets and everything. And I would like to thank the superintendent and Susan and Carla to taking the time and putting this together, all together. Thank you, Superintendent Carla and Susan. I think Susan is not here. Here in Saugus, our children and teenagers are facing fewer and fewer safe and accessible places for recreation. Many families cannot afford private, expensive sports facilities and places for them. And the few available public spaces are often small, lack property safety. Everybody knows that. In addition, many of parks are old, rusted, and in need of maintenance. In result, our teenagers are increasingly confined in their homes with their energy and dopamine focus almost entirely on video games and YouTubers, which neither physically or emotionally healthy. I believe that the best approach is not ban e-bikes, but rather to educate, like you are doing. The school are doing very good job to educate the young people on how to use them safely and responsibly. Moreover, would be doing us all the huge favor, improving and appropriate spaces right here in Saugus. We do have spaces for the children. We have like places like a rusted And we could improve these places, the old spaces where they can learn, practice, and even develop skills in the competitive and Olympic sport. And thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you. Judy has a comment.
Thank you for all of this. This is wonderful conversation. From a previous comment, I just wanted to share, Safe Routes to School is 20 years old. We're in 70% of Massachusetts schools. We have almost 350 non-school partners. So, we're around every corner, which is wonderful. But part of this is, after 20 years, making the program more sustainable. So one of those points that we've tried to accomplish is to the question about, are you going to have the same bike education every year? And so we do have, again, we're accredited by DESE for professional development, and this is where we actually train the educators how to teach the lesson, and then you own it. You adopt the curriculum, and then we can walk away. So there are different avenues for that. We also, in terms of policy, every single school committee, school district has a wellness policy. It's kind of like the counterpart on the municipal side for Complete Streets. And with that, about health and wellness, we have partnered with, again, Department of Elementary and Secondary Ed and the Massachusetts Association for School Committees and for active transportation amendments. So we have language on our website, and we can help you craft and give examples what other districts have adopted. So part of it is encouraging arrival and dismissal in different modes, but part of it is also having the resources to make that work. So again, the education paired with the planning. So thank you.
Thank you. Liz?
Hey, can I interrupt for 1 second? I just wanted to
Of course, Tommy, go ahead.
To Ms. Flynn's question about the schools. We do have, at the Belmonte, we got a donation of, I believe it was like 12 bikes, I think it was last year. So we do have a bike safety course for the younger kids. And also, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, but I'm pretty sure we had Detective Ciccolini come, and he does a safety course with the kids as well. So we do start at the young ages, but. No, I love that. Yeah.
I want you to get these guys right here.
You know what? I'm going to say right now, I see this guy right here on the end. He's very safe, this kid. I see him with his helmet on. He obeys the rules. He does a good job, this guy.
I want to see him in action, putting together what they've heard on the stage, using the bike safely, using their hand signals or their blinkers.
Yeah, well, there's some hand signals, but it's not the ones we're looking for. Yeah. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Liz Marchese from Precinct 6, town meeting member. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for coming here tonight. This is an amazing, amazing forum. Thank you, everybody, for putting it together. And thank you, all of our guests, for coming. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge the school department, school committee. You have done a fantastic job with what you have in educating our children. I have heard nothing but great things about you, Principal Scazzarella. So thank you very much. Shannon, thank you for bringing Safe Routes to school. And from what I understand, I think your policy subcommittee is also working on an e-bike policy, so kudos for being so proactive to the school committee. I'm actually up here to read a statement from my fellow Precinct 6 member. She's in Florida, Alicia Benito. I think she spoke at one of the Board of Selectmen meetings. And I promised her I would get up here and read, so excuse my appearance. I so apologize. And this isn't the first person, so obviously I'm not Alicia when I read this. My name is Alicia Bonito, Precinct 6. I am a pediatric emergency nurse at Mass General Hospital. I am increasingly concerned about the amount of injuries in the pediatric population due to motorized e-bikes. A leading cause of death for adolescents in America is unintentional injuries. I have witnessed firsthand the explosion of accidents, including massive head injuries, internal bleeding, traumatic fractures, and death. Nearly all of these injuries are preventable. I am alarmed that these injuries are happening to younger and younger patients from the ages of 11 to 16 years old. Kids this age lack the developmental skills to judge speed and mitigate risk. The law should be clear. No person under the age of 16 should be riding anything with a motor or shared streets on bike paths. All too often in my own community, I see younger adolescents tandem riding, stunt driving, and jetting out into traffic, mostly without helmets. A particular hot spot is on the Belmonte School on off hours from the bike path. In the summer, I see kids racing their dirt bikes on the track. Law enforcement should have a zero tolerance for underage riders. I propose fines and calling guardians as a first offense, and for a second offense, the bike gets impounded. I want Saugus to lead the way on this issue and be proactive within the rules of the state, increasing signage, safety mechanisms on the bike paths, such as what Robert Camuso has suggested on numerous occasions, and a public service announcement from local law enforcement, similar to the one that I believe everybody has seen from the town of Andover, should show the public where we stand. We all share responsibility of this problem. I hope you share my sense of urgency before another tragedy occurs. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Do any of the panel members want to respond?
Yeah, I'll respond. So we do, especially on the bike path, we do have officers in the warmer months that go out on the mountain bikes to patrol that area and try to clean up the unsafe acts on the rail trail. We do have the ability, to seize bikes for 15 days if we see an unsafe act. Typically, the first step is to, take the child home, talk to the parent about what the child's been doing out on the rail trail, and go that route first. And then later on, if it keeps up and you don't get the cooperation at home, then we can seize a bike for 15 days. I think if we change the law and we can seize the phone for 15 days, we can nip this whole thing in the bud and we won't see anything like that again. But it is an option, and it's something that we can use in the future, definitely.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to address the panel?
Yeah, Steve Winslow. A great forum. I'm very envious being over in Malden to see this great panel put together. Just a couple things. Agnes Ricardo from Bike to the Sea, who's the program manager there, wasn't able to come. I think she's doing a presentation on e-bikes as well, but she would be a great resource in terms of some education. And the other thing we have in Malden, and just probably a resource that could be expanded to Saugus, we have a program called Greater Malden Outdoors. And so we had a partnership where in Malden we have something called the Bike Kitchen, which is basically a bike repair shop. And we get, especially young kids' bikes, kids outgrow them. So we get donations, and then we have Learn to Bike programs run with Bike to the Sea and Greater Malden Outdoors. So that model, is something that Bike to the Sea, I say it's the child that I helped raise from infancy, and now it's on its own. It's doing a lot of great things. So that's a resource, and I think Agnes, she would have loved to be here tonight, but she couldn't. So that's something to plug into. So, but great work. Just look forward to working with you all. That a lot of times the same, people with e-bikes and e-motors, I have the same issues in Malden, so a lot of times it's crossing borders, so it's great that we're working together, and great to know it's the state legislation is coming together. And I actually really like what Kara put together about, the bikes and making sure, one of the things I always tell people about bikes is go to a local bike shop, because they're not going to sell you something that's going to break down, because if it does, you're going to take it back. You buy something online now or at some other place, you don't know what you're getting, and they're not going to fix it. And so that is just one of the things. So it is something for all parents to be aware of, what you're buying first. So that's something. So, but great forum, and however I can help out and make connection with Bike to the Sea and make sure that resource is there as well, would be great. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you for all your work on Bike to the Sea. It's very much appreciated. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to address the panel or make any comments? Yes, sir.
Great job, everybody. I think it's a good thing. My grandson is 12 years old. He rides what appears to be a moto. Bought it online and does have no safety features.
Oh boy.
But without it, this is a boom, and it's going to keep coming, I think. I think the town needs to deal with it in a larger scale, maybe some type of experiment with the high school and middle school, where Highland Ave becomes some type of a bike path on the right or the left so that the kids aren't weaving in and out. Would be a great start maybe in the spring with a sign at the end to maybe some parents can be a little more patient when they're coming down Highland Ave. Everyone's in a hurry, and infrastructure is probably the key to success in Saugus. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we addressed everybody's comments and questions this evening, unless I missed somebody.
But going back to Liz's point and some of the other points that I've made, I think, no pun intended, where this thing is really going to, where the rubber is going to meet the road, if you will, is in the enforcement of it. And I realize that we are limited through our legislator and all of that right now, but what is the plan, and what are some other communities doing to enforce this? So if you have children that are riding it in an unsafe way, they're not following the rules. Part of the problem that we have here in town is kids riding bikes in a menacing way, in a very unsafe way for vehicles and other people on the street. So what can we do, and what are the ramifications? You said that we can seize the bike for 15 days. Can we give out tickets? Are there citations? Like, is that part of the discussion at a bigger level, and how do we implement those things? Because as a parent, if I have a child that comes home on an e-bike and they have a ticket or a fine because they're riding it in an unsafe way, chances are I might be a little bit more incentivized to deal with that. So I'm just curious what that looks like, if we're doing it, if we're not doing it.
We can issue citations. It's a little tricky with somebody who doesn't yet have a driver's license. They don't have a license number that we can use to cite them or anything like that. Technically, we can still do it. Our first option, like I said earlier, is to take that child home to the parent, explain to them the unsafe act that you witnessed their son or daughter doing, and hopefully it's addressed at that point. So that's our first step. I think the citation and the seizing the bike is a little bit further down the road. But yeah, there is, and most of the bike violations I think are about $20, $25, but a lot of times, you know, it can be that kind of wake-up call, like you said, when your child comes home, or we bring your child home with not only the bike, or maybe not the bike because we're seizing it, but also a citation. So it is an option.
Thank you.
Just one comment. Right now, there's no safe space for kids to bike in town. So if they're behaving incorrectly and not following the rules of the road, it's because minus the path, there is no place to do it. So going in an enforcement route is kind of ironic. What are they supposed to do? And I want to make sure that we keep equity at the forefront of enforcement education and how we think of everything. These are mobility devices for kids. And part of the reason I opened the Ride Cafe is because I don't want to be my kid's Uber. And we want these kids, bikes foster independence, they foster creativity, they foster ownership. Bikes are beautiful for kids. E-bikes, I'm not talking about e-motos. I hope I made that clear. I do not think any kid should be on something that goes over 20 miles an hour. However, going the only enforcement route, we're kind of missing the forest for the trees if we only think that like seizing a bike is going to solve the problem.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Cecilia Lujan. I'm actually a resident of Lynn. I'm also an outreach coordinator of Safe Routes to School, but I'm speaking as a resident of Lynn. I'm here because I want to see what other communities are doing in terms of bikes, e-bikes, children mobility. My daughter's telling me it is time to go home, but I'm here because I have a 9-year-old who I wish weren't grabbing her iPad at all times. I want her on a bike. I want her outside. But coming from a city where we are filling it with bike paths all over the place, but we're not teaching our community how to use said bike path, being a product of Lynn Public Schools, where I remember I got pedestrian safety one time in 2nd grade, and then I was expected to know how to walk and manage myself in Lynn, and then get on the T, and then leave Massachusetts, and then come back. I think that Everyone's worried about the same thing, which is the safety of the people that live in Saugus and Lynn in the area. But we need to know our resources. So what are other towns doing? I'm in a separate region. I can talk to you about like the Utopia, Georgetown, Newburyport. Newburyport has committees. They have people from all, like everyone who's at the table here, they meet regularly. They talk about it. They made regulation that's specific to their town, to their location. They have different things that they have to keep in mind, not just their own citizens, they have to keep in mind tourists that come in during the summer and change everything for everyone. So we can absolutely look at what other cities are doing and what other towns are doing, what other countries are doing. Germany, it doesn't matter that it's snowing, they're out there with their bikes, but they also have the infrastructure and they're keeping up to make sure that said infrastructure is accessible to the people that are using it. So we can blame parents. Not every parent might have known that this was happening right now. I can also make all of this the excuses in the world. I think the biggest thing is showing that we care, coming together, getting said task force. That's why I applied to Safe Routes to School, because I didn't know what else to do. So I found this organization and I started learning about it. And then finding a way where all of us are speaking the same language or understanding each other about what we want to get done, which is have our children ride these vehicles, contraptions, type 1, 2, 3, 4, e-bikes, motor, whatever it is, safely, respectfully. So let's continue to get together. This was a great forum where we're definitely interested in the same thing. Let's continue to investigate. Let's share this information with the areas that are around us and figure it out from there. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just curious about Saugus. A few years ago, or maybe it's longer than that, many cities and towns changed their requirement to buy tobacco from 18 to 21. It didn't require the state. They went ahead at their own level and said 18 isn't old enough. Can Saugus do something like that to change and say you have to be 16, even if it's not driver's license, a permit, you know, to make kids a little more safe? Just a thought.
Thank you. I appreciate everybody's comments this evening. This was, I think, a very worthwhile forum. I think looks like everyone is done speaking this evening. So with that said, I'm going to ask a board member to make a motion to adjourn. That's seconded by the chair. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? I hope everyone has a wonderful evening. Thank you all for coming, and a special thank you to the panel. Good night.